Ross Perot took the votes of people who would otherwise have voted straight Republican as opposed to reactionary. And in terms of Ross Perot, he defeated quite easily, as did the Republicans, President Clinton. So President Clinton, who was a governor from Arkansas, suddenly is running for president. Nobody expected this clown to win. He was totally Dixie Mafia. Everybody knew he was basically drug running throughout the southern states. So you've got this Dixie Mafia boy who is basically an idiot. His wife is a shrew who is a product of Oxford, and everybody knows she's the brains and he's nothing but literally basically a prick. And this individual is suddenly president. Now, how did that happen? Ross Perot. Nobody voted for Clinton. Statistically, demographically, he lost the vote by a landslide both elections. The only reason he was put in was because Ross Perot took enough votes where Clinton de facto, by default, became president. And so that's why George Bush Sr. said, we're going to kill Ross Perot. And that's when Ross Perot stopped running. When Ross Perot got on television, he said in front of the American public, I have to stop running for president because the former head of the CIA is using his CIA connections to threaten myself and my daughter. When I show up at her wedding, I've been told that he's going to kill us all using CIA terrorists, and they're sponsored, but they're really agency, and they're going to take out my family. I can't run for president anymore. Now, he said that on air. He said that on record, and nobody said anything. Nobody batted an eye. then he withdrew, and Clinton was left president. Now, at that point, they were stuck with this clown in the White House, and he had a woman who was running the show, Hillary, and she had a history you wouldn't believe that was connected with the Muslim world. Hillary was at Oxford, a member of a sorority called Hell's Harlots. And Hell's Harlots consisted of the most powerful women in the Muslim world. One of them was Tansu Çiller, who became the prime minister of Turkey, and the other was Benazir Bhutto, who referred to herself as a spoiled Muslim princess who was the daughter of the king who ran Pakistan. Now, Tansu Çiller was so butch, she made her husband take her last name in a Muslim nation, no less. And Benazir Bhutto was such a witch that she was part of CENTO, and pretty much, aside from the fall of the Shah, was one of the major reasons CENTO collapsed. Now, what's CENTO? I was a Department of Defense research librarian. So one of the things we were dealing with was the various alliances to contain the Soviet Union and Communist China and Communist expansion. So these alliances were NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which still curses us today. The other was SEATO, which is the Southeast Asian Treaty Organization, which was to contain the expansion of North Vietnam and its conquest of the South, and then its conquest of Laos and Cambodia. And, of course, we had CENTO in between SEATO and NATO. And CENTO was the Central Treaty Organization, and it contained Turkey, Pakistan, and, of course, in its center, the Shah's Iran. Now, of course, the other member was the United States. Now, the Shah's regime collapsed. This resulted in the October Surprise, which brought in the senile, demented actor as president nominally, but Bush Sr. as the power behind the throne. And then the Benazir Bhutto monarchy collapsed, and nobody seems to remember why. They remember this Sharif Parviz, or whatever his name was, Musharraf. He shows up on, various comedy shows promoting his book because his military junta collapsed in Pakistan. Nobody, of course, asked, how did the military junta get in charge of Pakistan in the first place? Well, it was because Benazir Bhutto made a killing on the blood market because of that Dixie mafioso named Bill Clinton. Now, what did Bill Clinton do? Well, he was the governor of Arkansas. He made a big bunch of charity donations of blood to the blood market. Now, back in those days, about a quarter of 100 years ago or more, 30 years ago, the whole world was a real different place. Blood banks used to pay people for their blood. Now, think about what I'm saying. This is insane. Blood banks used to pay people for their blood. Well, what does that mean? Well, what's the big deal? What's wrong with that? Well, what would happen? All the homeless people, all the drug addicts, all the hookers would donate blood. And, of course, they were infected with AIDS, syphilis, gonorrhea, hepatitis. So all the blood transfusions were spreading this crap to kids who were taking blood donations who weren't even having sex yet. And they were coming down with all this crap. Well, one of the king of the blood donors for charity was Bill Clinton, because he ran the Arkansas State Penitentiary system. And he promised all the prisoners, hey, packs of cigarettes, extra prison privileges, even some time out. You get out early. You donate enough blood regularly. So everybody in the Arkansas prison system donated blood. He became known as one of the big donors to the blood market. And all this blood, of course, in prison, of course, they're all screwing each other. They're all shooting themselves full of dope, male rape. You got guards who are pimps who are pimping out the white-collar criminals to the blue-collar criminals. All this stuff's going on. So he was infecting the whole blood market with so much Sith and Gone and Hip and all the rest of this crap. Hillary called up Benazir Bhutto and said, the blood market's going to collapse. It's just totally tainted. The whole blood market is flooded with crap. One of my husband's one of the most responsible people for this, but plenty of other people are. So it's all going to crash. So Benazir Bhutto said, oh, here's an opportunity for me to make some real money. So she said to her generals, hey, we've had 5 wars with India, and the majority of them have almost gone nuclear. So the next big 6th Indo-Pakistani war could be a real killer. I think we need to have enough of a blood reserve for all of our injured civilian personnel as well as military personnel on hand so we can take care of the potential casualties of the next Indo-Pakistani conflict. And the generals, of course, said, that's a great idea, Princess. Then she gave orders to the corpsmen, the medics who were running the show, and when all the troops came in to donate blood, the medics strapped them down to the tables, and instead of taking 1 pint, the medics took 12. And she drained 20,000 men dry. She killed 20,000 of her own troops and took this military-grade blood, tested for Hep, tested for Sif, tested for everything, totally clean blood, military-grade. And she brought it to the blood market when it crashed. And the blood market, when it crashed, of course, they're saying, oh, God, we're desperate. We'll pay anything for blood. Children are dying. Wealthy people are dying. We need blood. Where do we get it? Oh, Pakistan. So all kinds of people now have Pakistani blood in them from out of that military splurge that came back then. And, of course, she had to leave the country because everybody was going to basically gut her and hang her alive in her own intestines. So she lived in London for 20 years. And then what happened was the Clinton administration was over, and the Clintons said, hell, we don't want Gore in charge. If Gore is in charge, hell, he'll drag down the economy with his emissions control, and he'll stunt all this industry and services, and everybody will blame it on the Democrats, and we'll never get in power. So they conspired, along with the Bushes, to take Gore out. So when Gore was running for president, he won. Everybody knows he won. And what happened was Jeb Bush, who was running Florida, did exactly what they did to Samuel Tilden. Thanks to my executive producer, I know that president charge for the next 2 administrations. He's going to run the country to the ground, exactly what happened, and then they'll vote in Hillary. So, and by the way, during the Clinton administration,